What's up, everyone? Marc Lobliner, CEO, MTS Nutrition, Part 2, How I Made My Millions. Now, we started off with my childhood. It got really teary-eyed, and I don't know if there's anything in here that'll get that emotional, other than my dad passing away and all I went through, and my mom's mental issues, and the mental hospital, and all that. But, and that was also, that was during the holidays when I filmed that one, so I was actually just going, my dad died on the 27th, so I was really in an emotional state. And hopefully my mind's a little bit more right now and I don't put you guys through that again. But anyway, I wanted to just go over my college years and my time at Weider Publications. Now, as we talked about in my first video, I became quite good at football, quite proficient at it. And I was actually recruited by a lot of Division I universities. Playoff game, we were playing up north in Atascadero, California. And I was actually having a really good game. It was a close game. We ended up losing, but I lost more than that. In the second quarter of the game, I was having a phenomenal game. I was on defense. I was playing nose guard. I had my blocker right here, shifted him off to the side. He was out of the picture. I pivoted to the right, planted my right foot, boom. Leg went out. Mainly a meniscus tear that time, but it gets a little worse than that, and we'll go into that in a little bit. So that took me down, and they tried to repair my meniscus. It was, I don't know if it hurt physically as much as it, because I never got carried off the field in my entire career. And I didn't even get carried off the field then. People came out to try and help me, and I waved them off. And I walked off the field myself because I promised myself, even if I'd find a way to crawl off the field. I will never be helped off the field. It just, for me, it was a man thing. Ego, machismo, you call it what it is. And, oh, shit. My dad was there. So anyway, Katie was actually the captain of the cheerleading team. And I remember sitting on the bench and, my dad was in the crowd and Katie was cheerleading and she literally came away from her team and she sat me on the bench and I knew it was bad. And so, I was just like, this is not good. This is a ligament. This is something bad. This is a ligament. Or a cartilage or something. And right there, I knew all the offers and everything. And my only way into college was football. So, it was tough. It was tough. But she sat there the whole game. And so anyway, my dad drove me home. I think it was like a 3 or 4 hour drive from up north. It was past Santa Barbara. We lived in Inglewood, Culver City area. So I remember having, my dad was not strong enough. He'd already have a couple strokes to help me. So I literally dragged myself with my arms. I could not put weight on it down the hall. The next day was good enough. I went to the doctor, got the MRI, and we knew I needed surgery. But, my dad wasn't really a crying person, like me, obviously. But he actually, we were at the doctor's, and they told me about my knee. And he knew everything I'd gone through with my mom and everything. And, so my dad, first time I really saw him cry, because he knew how much I wanted. He knew how much I wanted to go to college, and he knew he couldn't afford it. He knew at that point in time we weren't in a position to put me through school. So anyway, we got home. I had the surgery. I was still with Katie, and she was my rock, and I remember like every step of the way. I remember it happened right before Thanksgiving, and I hadn't had my surgery yet, and I remember going to her house for Thanksgiving and hobbling around with crutches, and it was just crazy. But she was always there for me 100% of the time. And then I had my surgery, and they repaired my meniscus, and I had some slight tearing, nothing too bad in the ligaments. So anyway, long story short, I decided not to do anything Division I. I ended up going through Division III college, California Lutheran University in Thousand Oaks. And sure enough, I'm training for camp and the season going in. And I don't know if they tried to repair my meniscus, they didn't just take it out. And I think looking back on it and knowing what I know now, that was a mistake. But the doctor knew I was young, thought I could heal. So literally, when I tore my meniscus this time, when it retore, it took my ACL, MCL, and everything along with it. So long story short, that was the end. But good news is I had full financial aid pretty much to college. So It ended up working out really well, and Katie ended up staying in California. She went a semester to Cal State Northridge and came and joined me at California Lutheran University, and we actually went to college together, so that was actually pretty awesome. Never saw any time on the field. My dreams, football to me was not life. Football was my ticket to college and my ticket out, and that's why it was such an important part of my life. But I was gifted and blessed and so thankful to all those along the way, even after my knee injury. I remember Coach Scott McCrilla, working with me, finding some smaller schools who'll pick me up and give me some financial aid, because they don't give scholarships D3, they give financial aid. So I was able to pretty much get college taken care of, other than some bills. But long story short, I still couldn't afford to live. So I was actually, during college, I was working 2 jobs, right? This parlays into the next segment. Now the stuff he knows from crime. So I went and I was broke. Like, I had no money. So I got a job at Bally Total Fitness in Simi Valley, California, and I was a personal trainer. Within 2 months, I was promoted to personal training coordinator, where I was actually working out of the Chatsworth location. I'd go to Pasadena. I'd go to a bunch of different clubs, and I was actually a personal training coordinator, which was really awesome. Now, that still didn't pay the bills, even though I was getting up at 3 a.m. to have my first client at 5 a.m. and do some homework beforehand, and then training during the day, having classes during the day, and then also training again at night when people got off work. But there's that lull in the day when I'd only have 2 or 3 classes, even taking 18 to 20 units, that I'd have time, and I needed money, so I got a part-time job at Big 5 Sporting Goods in Thousand Oaks, California, and I was selling shoes. I worked in the shoe department. I sold cheap LA Gear shoes to basically all the white trash you could find in Thousand Oaks, because nobody buys LA Gear unless you're poor, just being real. So anyway, I slang shoes, I trained, and I took 18 to 21 units. Plus, at that time, I had a good training partner. His name was Marc, believe it or not. Served 6 years in a federal penitentiary for armed robbery. Came out, tattoos all over. He actually was my training partner, and he got me into powerlifting. So at the age of 18, 19 years old, I'm taking all this stuff, working 2 jobs, and I'm powerlifting. Actually, at my first APF meet at the LA Lifting Club in Burbank, California, actually did really, really well. So I was also powerlifting at the time. Unfortunately, I was only getting 3 hours of sleep a night. I was still trying to budget in time for me and Katie. We used to have this thing where she was actually renting a room at somebody's house. It was before, she wasn't, the campus thing wasn't her thing, but this later on. And I used to stop over there on the way to work, because her house is on the way to work, and we used to eat English muffin together. That was our thing, English muffins in the morning. That was before we really cared about diet and all that stuff. I mean, we did, but we didn't really care about hitting our exact macros, and, it was our thing. So we had breakfast together, and we saw each other occasionally on weekends when I wasn't working, because I had to pick up as many hours as possible, because I didn't want debt. I never got into debt. Never. Ever. I knew what debt could do, because I knew what it did to my family, right? We had to foreclose on a house when I was a kid. I didn't go over that. That would take a bit of 400. I could go on for years about what happened. So, I know what debt can do to people. I was always afraid of debt, and still to this day, I'm petrified of debt. I have no debt. No debt. MTS could fall apart right now, and I'd be fine. So anyway, I ended up working. I had this client, right, who was a personal training client. Used to come in every day. I believe it was at 6 a.m., very professional. I believe her name was Jackie. And the gentleman working out at my gym, I had no idea. We were located right near Woodland Hills, which is where Weider Publications used to be based. And a lot of people who work there actually live in Simi Valley and Thousand Oaks, who work in the Valley, because it's cheaper, it's nicer, it's less congested. So Bob Washburn was the senior VP of Weider Publications. He was the publisher. And he basically knew my client. He asked me, he said, I'm looking for this position. Do you know anybody who could take this job? And she goes, this guy has no experience. But man, he sold me these packages. Not only that, he delivered on it. This guy works 10 jobs. And he's in school and this and that. And Bob's like, really? So one day I'm sitting in my office. This is how I always say, luck always comes to those who work the hardest. I'm sitting in my office just programming for my next client. And Bob walks in. He was a creepy dude, but he gave me my first opportunity, but I ended up not really liking him as a person, so to speak, but man, I'll always be indebted to him for giving me an opportunity. He goes, yeah, he talked like Lumbergh from fucking Office Space, man. He always had his coffee, his Starbucks, because, that's what rich white people do. And he's like, yeah, we have this position open up. And I'm like, really, where? He's like, Weider. I'm like, Weider. And when I was a kid, man, I couldn't afford much. I used to buy the Weider mask gainers at Big Five Sporting Goods, man, because that's where I bought my supplements. I couldn't afford that GNC shit. So anyway, Bob, long story short, I'm like, fuck yeah. Well, I didn't say fuck yeah. I'm like, yes, sir, absolutely. I have my Bally Total Fitness polo shirt on. So long story short, I ended up talking to this guy. His name was Laya Clark. Laya to this day is a good friend of mine. He was actually a groomsman at my wedding. And he goes, hey, we have this position, laid back Hawaiian cat, right? And I'm like, wait a second, you want to interview me? He's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. So at that time, literally that same day, I was renting a room in Thousand Oaks, California with this really creepy old dude. It's like 40 years old. He lived in his garage and he rented out his house. It was really creepy with 4 complete losers living there. Like, I say this nicely. So I got evicted from the house because I cleaned it. Not serious. Like, it was so dirty. I found a slug in the shower once. Filthy. So one day I just got fed up. I stayed up all night and I cleaned the kitchen. And they got mad at me for cleaning the kitchen. Dead serious. They evicted me. Got evicted. So I was like, so I'm literally down and out. I have all these bills. I'm working, I'm making, but I have nowhere to live. So I'm like, I can't afford an apartment, right? All I have is this fucking room. And I saw no rooms for rent. We didn't have the vast fucking resources we do now to find places to live. I had to go in the periodicals and look in the fucking newspaper and see if somebody's renting a room. So anyway, long story short, I got evicted the same day I talked to Bob Washburn. So I went to my first interview, and it was with Bob. And I went in, and I didn't own a suit. So I took one of my dad's old suits. They lived in Burbank, California at the time. And it was about 3 sizes too small. So the fucking sleeves were up here, because I had a big chest. I was like 240 at the time. It was tight. I couldn't get it on. I actually ripped a couple of the threads putting it on. And I walked in. And it had gold. It was just an old guy's suit. Like, it didn't fit a fucking 19-year-old wheeler and dealer, right? So I go in, I go, look, Bob, I apologize, but this is the only suit I could afford that I had. I don't wear suits. I work at a gym. But I wore a suit because I have too much respect for you to not wear a suit to this interview. And Bob actually said something profound. He said, a suit doesn't make the man. A man makes the suit. Well, cool. So long story short, I'm going in about how I'm going to fucking kill it here. That was my best interview ever. And Bob goes, yeah. He goes, do you feel you're a cocky individual? I said, I'll remember this. I said, no, sir, I'm not cocky. I'm confident. I'm confident if you give me a chance here, you will not regret it. I will make this company more money than they've ever imagined from this position. And I will move up. And I will move up in this company. I guarantee you that right now. This is a 19-year-old who's come from nothing who's saying this, right? Like, I can't believe I was that fucking confident at that age, or I was just lying because I needed money. So then I made it through Bob and I got to interview with Laya. Complete opposite. Wearing a Hawaiian shirt, was straight from Hawaii, literally just came back from visiting his family, tanned. Just a gorgeous man, like he looked like The Rock. And so he's like, I'll give you some homework. So he gave me some homework and I had to write a piece of paper, like on this and that. Like I had like 5 or 6 interviews. And finally he's like, look, I need you to write a letter to me and tell me why you need this job. At that time, the WWF at the time was really hot. And The Rock was the man. He looked just like The Rock. So I wrote an entire sales letter as if I was The Rock. And I found out later I was up against like 5 other dudes with like fucking MBAs for this job. So long story short, I get an offer letter. I found the offer letter in my files the other day. $24,000 a year with commission in California. $24,000 ain't shit. So I was like, fuck it. Yeah, I'll take it. So that was literally taking a pay cut from what I was doing because I was training a lot of clients and I was working that part-time job at the sporting goods store selling shoes. So I ended up finishing school at correspondence. I didn't actually go to class, but I was able to do it over the internet, correspondence. At that time, we had the internet rocking and rolling, able to do some stuff. It was a lot of mailing stuff in, but it wasn't as cool as it is now. But University of Phoenix, those other programs were along, and a lot of universities were following suit, and I was able to work things out with my current professors. I was very close to graduating anyway, so I was able to obtain my degree. I did get a degree. I don't think it's done anything for me, to be honest with you, but I fucking promised myself I'd get it, and I'd get it. Just like on a side note, Barry Sanders did the same thing. After he got out of the NFL, he promised his mom he'd get a degree. Dude's already a millionaire, got a degree. You gotta set goals, and you gotta set promises for yourself and not break them. So I get to Weider, and I am offered this opportunity. And I didn't even know how to read a commission structure at the time, I'm not gonna lie. Had no idea how much money I was gonna make or if I could make money. My territory was worth $30,000 at the time. I was in charge of new business on the West Coast. It was a $30,000 territory. So long story short, within like 1 year, I had that shit up to over 3 million. What I didn't realize, and I realized this 4 months after I started, is they gave me a no cap commission structure, which means it was like this. Usually they have the bell curve where you make it and then they start giving you less and less as high you go. This was a straight up boom, like you sell, you make. And my wife called me at work one day. She at the time was still finishing college, had an internship at J.D. Power and Associates. And she called me. She goes, hey, she stopped home to get lunch. I mean, we lived in Thousand Oaks. J.D. Power and Associates is in Agora Hills, California. Those of you Californians will know exactly what I'm talking about. She goes, I think they messed up on your check. I still laugh to this day with Aya about this. I go, what do you mean they messed up on my check? She goes, well, there's like all this money. It was literally enough money to pay off my student loans and most of hers. And I'm like, or most people would just put rims on their cars, right? We did. We were, like I said in the first episode, man, we were always very conservative. So I go, well, how much is it for? And I'm like, holy shit. I'm not going to get caught with this. So I'm naive. I go into Lia's office. I'm like, Lia, I need to talk to you. He's like, yeah, close the door, bro. What's up? And I'm like, you guys made a mistake. I'm like, my wife just called me. My commission check came in the mail and it was for X and X. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, dude, you got it. Like, I'm going to just have my wife tear it up. You guys can reissue the new one. I'm sorry this happened. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't misreport. I looked over my commission report. He's like, or my sales reports. I'm like, I didn't mess anything up. It's all on. He's like, no, bro, that's what you earned. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, you earned every dime of that. And the company made much more than you did, so feel proud of yourself. And I'm like, so I get to keep it? And Lia's like, yeah, you get to keep every cent of it. And the way you're going, you're going to make double that next time. Until they figure it out, and then they're going to cut your shit. He literally said that. I'm like, wow. So I call my wife, and I'm like in tears because like we've never had money. Like my wife, God bless her soul. Like our dates, there's a place in Simi Valley, California called Acapulco. It's a chain restaurant of Mexican food. And every week they'd send a coupon. Buy one meal, get one free. And we'd literally go to those places and we'd eat all the chips we could to get enough food. Because like to really pack it in. Because we were literally living paycheck to paycheck. We were living in an apartment in Thousand Oaks at that time. And, we literally, our entertainment center we found in the dumpster. We had a couch we got from her mom who had holes in it, so I had to put a sheet over it so you couldn't see it. And then we managed to buy like $300 in furniture from IKEA, like a table and a little coffee table. So we got this check, and it changed everything. On that note, I think that's where I should stop this because we're ready at 20 minutes. So next time I'll go into what I learned at Weider, and then I'll leave Weider and go to Instone. And then we'll go into Civation years. So I'm trying to like figure out how I'm going to section these, but it just depends. For example, I forgot about that last football game and I forgot about all that, but I don't have notes for this, man. I'm just going off the top of my head. But anyway, here's how I made my $1 million. Part 2. Thank you for watching. I'm Marc Lobliner, and that's not a game.